So welcome back to the Bollocks series. Today we're like Bollocks, do I have carpal tunnel? Um, so let's look at who it's most commonly seen in. So it's most commonly seen in people who do repetitive movements around the wrist, typing, computer work, that kind of thing, or maybe bricklaying, anything where you're doing repetitive movements of the wrist. People who are obese, so a high BMI, um, autoimmune disorders such as rheumatoid arthritis, and commonly seen in pregnancy. Um, so it's the compression of the median nerves that goes through the wrist, middle of the wrist here. It's kind of age group is more common in kind of older people, kind of from like 36 to 60. Slightly more common in female to men. So let's look at there's no actual tests first, which we'll come to in a moment. So people tend to complain of numbness and pins and needles and pain. So the sensation issues are usually thumb, so thumb, second, third, and half of this. Is that the ring finger? Which is similar pattern if they've got a neck radiculopathy of the C6, C7. So we need to rule out the neck as well. So usually some sort of numbness in this area. But 2/3 of people just complain of general glove numbness or pins and needles and wrist pain. And then the pain that you can get is around the wrist and can radiate up the arm as high as the shoulder. But usually it's more kind of localized pain and kind of that glove numbness, pins and needles. People say that what we call the flick sign, or shaking their hands, relieves it. Then you've got weakness. In the later, more late stages, you get weakness and atrophy. So if you're looking at this book, so this is your thenar eminence. If you look at that, compare right to left. So your affected side, your affected wrist, if that muscle bulk there is smaller, now that's a sign. Or if you've got weakness in your thumb in abduction. So if you push both thumbs together, and one feels weakness, so that's adduction and that's abduction. So together like that. So if you're weak in that direction, and pushing the thumb out. Because sometimes this could be coming from the neck, so you want to make sure that it's not coming from the neck. So if you're getting pain around your neck with neck movements, that's one indication it might actually be the neck. So if it's my right hand that's affected, if I'm looking up, turn and tilt and compress that side and even apply a little bit of pressure down on my head, if that's causing pains down, coming from neck down the arm, again, that's what we call Sperling's test. The therapist would do that to you. That's a positive sign that it might be coming from the neck. And then if the therapist does a traction on you, so he kind of grabs your head and gives it a bit of a pull, if that relieves your symptoms, that's a positive test. And the self-traction, you can get a fist in underneath your chin, grab the back of your head and pull. So your hand would be caught here. And you're pulling forward to try to traction it, to gap the nerves coming out of your neck, to see if that relieves it. And that would be another positive sign. People will have, with the radiculopathy, so coming from the neck, will have more weakness, kind of wrist extensors and biceps. So you might have more weakness further up rather than just the thumb, as you do with. And there is 2 tests that they use. They do this Phelan's test, and then they do the tap on your wrist, this Tennille's test. But they're rubbish tests. There's very poor clinical value to them. So people tend to go on what the patient is telling you. There is a cluster of Weiner, I think it's Weiner, which is a 5-test cluster, or not 5 tests, 5 subjective measure cluster. So one's a questionnaire, one is the flick sign, I think numbness and pins and needles are in there as well. But yeah, there's a questionnaire as well that you need to fill out. We can go through that in another video if you wish. So yeah, so just to recap, you're getting this more of a flick sign, generally more of a glove-like sensation, weakness in the thumb, yeah, and pain in the wrist and or radiating up the arm. And then, like I said, it's slightly more common in female to men, 36 to 60, repetitive wrist movements, high BMI, things like rheumatoid arthritis, pregnancy, rather than if you're getting pain around your neck or with neck movements, specifically that closing pattern to the affected side. Yeah, and you can get it on both wrists as well. Yeah. You might get it at one and then it might start coming on in the other. Okay. And then the other thing with this cluster test as well, they can measure the thickness. So from front to back, to side, and if it's a lot thicker front to back, that can be another indication. There's a ratio that you can go by. Okay. Comment, like, and share. I'm Rob, and we'll catch you soon.